Quick announcement before I do the homily. We're doing a fundraiser for the church for a remodeling project that we're working on, and that's making progress. So outside of the church, you'll see the tables with the volunteers. You can go and talk to them if you'd like to help with that fundraising project. Clothing is sort of two-sided. There's the inside of the clothing and the outside, right? There's the part that touches our skin, and then there's the part that's visible to the outside world. And so we wear it for two different reasons. We wear it for ourselves, for our comfort, and that's fine for our, security. If it's cold outside, it protects us from the elements and so on. But there's also kind of a public dimension to our clothing. When we go, are around others and really pay no attention at all to our appearance, there's a kind of insult that we're doing to those that are around us. We're saying, you aren't worth me making an effort to make myself presentable. Okay? So it's not just all vanity. It's not as if every time we wear clothing that's a little bit nice, we're showing off. No, part of it is not showing off. There's a line where it's not about, oh, look at how much money I have, I can wear these name brands. It's about, I'm going to make myself look, pleasant to look at, out of respect for the people that I'm with. And for example, when we come to church, if we were to go to some kind of wedding or something like that, that's a kind of way to show respect to the people that are around us. Okay? Same thing when we're eating food. Meals are not just about, I'm an animal and I have to put something in my body so I don't die and starve to death. There's a social dimension to meals. Okay? As human beings, very often, maybe not all the time, but very often, we eat with others, and when we're eating with others, and especially if we invite people over, there's a kind of respect, a mutual respect that we have with each other, certain manners that we have when we're at table. Maybe we don't make certain noises while we're eating or whatever. We're polite to others, we have a conversation with them. We're not like looking at our phone the whole time. This shows the sort of social dimension to meals. Okay? And again, if we were to make really healthy food or really good food, it's not just about showing off. Again, it's about respecting those that we have invited to our house to have this meal. Similarly, when we have a house, there's a public dimension to living in a house. It's not just security for ourselves, that I'm going to build these walls so that I don't get eaten by wolves or something like that. There's a line, there's a place where even having a house that you take care of, well, the last person that looks at a house is the person that lives inside of it. When you try to, keep your lawn mowed and have a kind of decent kind of outside part of your house, that's really for your neighbors. They're the ones that have to look at your house. Even when we do things like Christmas lights or other decorations, again, it can very easily become showing off. But it's not always that. There's a public dimension to almost everything that we do. Now, I wanted to say that because the parable that we're reading today shows the negative side of all those things. But you can't just look at the negative part without already kind of first acknowledging the public side, or the positive side. However, the rich man in the parable really overdid these things, and the parable shows us how we can overdo them in a way that really condemns us before God. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, all right, who feasted sumptuously every day, okay, and at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus. So the rich man is exhibiting all these things. He has fancy clothes, he feasts sumptuously, and he's got a gate, which means he's got a house that's probably pretty good. And he lives in a gated community, maybe he's the only one in that community. What went wrong there? Well, I think the hint is every day. That's part of it, is that he was feasting sumptuously every day. And, again, there's nothing wrong with eating well every day. But the other part of the hint is later in the sentence. At his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, full of sores, who desired to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. He broke the public aspect of all of those things. The rich man, it's not just that he was clothed well, it's not just that he ate well, it's not just that he had a nice house. It's that he forgot that there's an aspect of all of those things, and an aspect of all of humanity, of every single part of what we are, that belongs not to me, but to the people around me. And that part, the fact that he forgot that, is not accidental. It's not exceptional. It's not weird. It's not like, oh my gosh, you mean somebody who is really wealthy and thinks a lot about how they clothe themselves and what they eat and where they live. You mean somebody who really thinks about that stuff a lot can forget to care about others? That's not a surprise at all. Because as human beings, especially as fallen human beings, it's really easy for us to forget about the people around us. It's really easy for us when we're concerned with, especially these worldly things, to make them all about us. And that's where not only do we cross into showing off, we cross over into only caring about these things. And when we put too much of our heart into those things, we don't have anything left over in our hearts to help the people that need us to help them. Lazarus, so don't get the message, don't get the idea that this parable is you shouldn't have clothing or nice clothing, or you shouldn't eat well and you shouldn't have a nice house. That's not what the parable is about. It's about those things are addicting if you let them be. And I wish it was as easy as just be moderate. If it was that easy, if I were to say, like, care about these things, but also care about the people around you, it's not that simple. If it were that simple, Jesus would not need to continue the parable by talking about hell and about torment after we die. You don't talk about hell to somebody who, maybe eats a little bit too much or maybe spends a little bit too much on clothing. You talk about hell when you need to threaten somebody to get out of an addiction. So these are desires that grip us and control us and blind us. Lazarus died of starvation when he could have lived from the crumbs that fell from his table. So part of this is kind of about numbers and proportion. So for example, if you have, nice clothing, nice, and you eat well and you live well, that's fine. However, if one of your meals, or if one night out on the town could stop somebody from getting evicted, if the amount you spend on any given random night going out to eat and partying, one night of that, if that can save somebody's house, then maybe you need to start asking yourself some questions. So part of this really is about numbers. And I think we all know of situations just like that. That Lazarus literally is starving right next to them. And the party continues. Now, that's only part of it. And again, I wish it was as simple as that. As, okay, there's nobody starving next to you, go and have fun. No, it really is, it's deeper than that. What's actually happening? Well, how could Lazarus have been saved? Not just for the rich man to like, oh, you know what, maybe my food needs to be a little bit less expensive so I can buy him something. No, there was actually a much easier solution. And I think that's really what's going on in the parable here. The solution would have been to invite Lazarus inside. You could still have the feasts. You could still have the house. You could still have the clothing. But just share it with others. Don't make it about you. And yet, we're kind of constructed in our fall to be greedy and to not think about those things. And it takes a very harsh parable like this to wake us up and remember, oh wait, what is mine isn't supposed to stay mine. It's supposed to be shared with the people that are around me, that maybe that I care about, but also the people that I don't care about, maybe that I wouldn't even think of. And maybe the time that's there at my disposal isn't really there for me. It's there for my community and for the people that are around me. So it's not about moderation. It's about love. And if we can switch to that kind of mentality, then our clothing will not just be earthly, like name brands. It will be the glory of God. Our food will not just be fancy restaurants all the time. It will be the Eucharist, the body of Christ. If we can do that, then our house will not be just, some nice place in Rancho San Diego. It'll be the kingdom of heaven. But we will not have those things if we do not have the love that this rich man lacked. And so let's beg God together to open our eyes so that we can see the Lazarus that is near us and help him.